There are three kinds of people when it comes to the juvenile death penalty. There are those who believe in it, those who don't, and those who believe it should be applied under special circumstances. There is no doubt that juveniles have committed severe crimes. However, the question here is, what kind of punishment do these juveniles deserve for the crimes they've committed? The juvenile death penalty has been used as a form of punishment in the past. However, this form of punishment is morally wrong, it is harsh, and it is unfair to troubled juveniles. The death penalty is morally wrong according to the Bible. The United States has used God and the Bible for various reasons in regards to the nation. In 1956, 2 years after pushing to have the phrase, "under God," inserted into the Pledge of Allegiance, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signs a law officially declaring "In God We Trust" to be the nation's official motto in a June 25, 2015 article website in history.com. If the United States has decided to use God as a form of representation in our nation, then the laws that are applied should also be based on what God has to say. In the book of Exodus, which is found within the Bible, it states, "You shall not murder." At the moment that a person decides whether or not a person gets to live or not, he or she is committing murder. God does not say it is okay to decide over somebody else's life. Capital punishment is murder. In the book of John, it also states, "For this is the love of God, that we keep His commandments, and His commandments are not burdensome." Since the United States uses God and the Bible as representation, it is only fair that the United States uses what is actually written in the Bible and to follow through with the commandments. Otherwise, the death penalty is morally wrong and it should be removed. Now that we have talked about the juvenile death penalty being morally wrong according to the Bible, let's move on to discuss why juveniles should not be sentenced as adults. Our second point here is, in the United States, juveniles are not allowed to vote or allowed to enlist in the military and or allowed to drink until they are 18. When to drink, it's 21. In the U.S. military system, you may enlist into any branch at the age of 17 with parental consent or 18 years old without parental consent in a December 9, 2017 article website militaryspot.com. A person or a juvenile is not even allowed to enroll into the military without parental consent until they're 18 years old. These juveniles are given harsh punishments. These punishments are given to adults when they commit a crime. Yes, a crime may be as severe as to the one an adult committed. However, an adult has more knowledge. It has more of a sense of what's right and what's wrong. These juveniles are not even allowed to vote, and they're being sentenced to death for a crime they committed at such a young age, where they were not mature, they did not have a knowledge. It is unfair for them to be given the punishment that adults are given. It does not make sense to give this juvenile the same punishment as an adult. 30 years of experience in life does not equal to 14 years or 16 years of life. Now that we have talked about why juveniles should not be charged as adults for the crime they committed, let's move on to discuss why most of these juveniles committed the crime in the first place. Some juveniles who commit crimes have been physically and or emotionally abused by their loved ones or by people around them. Miller v. Alabama is a court case about a 14-year-old boy who was convicted of robbery, murder, and arson. Evan Miller murdered his neighbor with a baseball bat and then set his trailer on fire. However, there is much more to Evan's story than just the crime he committed. Evan was abused by his stepfather, physically abused, and he had attempted suicide 4 times. He did drugs and he drank alcohol. He did all of this by the age of 14. Most students, or most people, or most teenagers, by the age of 14 have not even been exposed to half the things he was exposed to. Many people may argue, and they may say, that he knew what he was doing and that a crime is a crime. And although that is true, it is also true that he was not mature. Over the past 20 years, neuroscientists have discovered that brain maturation continues through an individual's mid-20s. In a June 23, 2014 article website and scholarship.law.duke.edu. It is proven scientifically that a person is not mature until their mid-20s. A 14-year-old boy was not responsible for his actions. He acted on what he knew. He didn't act out of hatred, or it wasn't a malicious act. He did not deserve the death penalty for a crime he committed at such a young age. In conclusion, the juvenile death penalty is immoral, it is unfair, and it is harsh to these troubled juveniles like Evan Miller. There are 3 kinds of people when it comes to the juvenile death penalty. However, out of those 3 kinds of people, one of them knows that a person does not have the right over somebody else's life, regardless of the crime and regardless of the harm that person, that juvenile, that child created.